Okay, I'm back. Let's see how far we get this time. The next step was that I made a logo for podcast artwork. So maybe I was getting a little bit bored at this point, or I think I was getting a bit frustrated, not bored, with the fact that it was taking a long time to kind of get through this process. And I essentially made a really, really crap bit of podcast artwork. Having said that, unlike the podcast intro, which I think is sort of so awful, it is going to have to go at some point, the podcast artwork that I've done is almost kind of so bad it's good. Well, I feel bad saying that. I'm not the one to be able to judge that. You're welcome to believe that it is just so bad it's bad. But it's the one, just in case I ever change it in the future, and you're wondering what I'm talking about. The way it looks at the moment is essentially a black and white picture of me wearing these glasses in front of a white wall with a sort of peculiarly intricate banner design floating over my head with "Built from Scratch" written in it. So I don't actually hate that. It's definitely weird and cheap and not very professional looking, but I like it in a weird way. So that is currently done. So I uploaded the intro to Libsyn. That was fairly straightforward, and input some sort of metadata, title, description, that kind of stuff. And at that point, I realised that the USB hub, which I'd bought off Amazon and which had arrived by this point, and I'd plugged in and started using, was causing my Wi-Fi to fail, and documents open in Google Drive to try and print themselves automatically. Not only that, but one of the 4 ports in it didn't work. So that was a little lesson in what can happen if you buy off-brand electronic products via Amazon. So I sent that back, and what's good about Amazon is, in fairness, the procedure to send it back was very easy. I was able to just go to the local co-op down the road, and they had a parcel delivery and collection pod there, where I was able to buy a big envelope, print off a ticket using a QR code from Amazon, and then send it back, and they actually refunded me. I think it might have been later that day, or possibly the next day at the latest. So that was a smooth process, but definitely a lesson in just how bad electrical products on Amazon can be. So next I saw that Libsyn has a show details page which looks like it will populate the episode content. So I filled that out. I don't think that's a great explanation. I think what I'm trying to say there is it has a page where if you fill out the various details relating to your show, every time you make an episode, if you don't want to input details specifically for that episode, it will just draw in the show details. So obviously you'll have to put in a unique title, but apart from that, I think if you're trying to do things quickly, you can get away with doing no more, and the rest will, it will fill out automatically, albeit slightly generically. I'm not sure about that though. I'm still very much learning my way through Libsyn and podcasting in general. It was only yesterday that I actually set up Libsyn to send to if not all of the places it can send to. So I'm going to have to wait for, I think, a good 3 or 4 weeks before I can actually see it popping up in any podcast feeds and sort of see it from the end user's point of view to check if I've done it correctly or not. But we'll see. Not reading that. That's not important. Right, so now I've just pointed out that the next couple of things I'm going to go through are good examples of how much of a time suck some tasks can be, and that I do need to be careful, therefore, what I actually get involved with. These couple of things I'm about to say, they definitely did waste quite a lot of time. At the moment, I can sort of write stuff like that off by saying that they are worth doing in the long run. Even if they take a little while now, they'll be set up forever and might provide, a decent bit of value over time. But literally, when I've got just this media output process down, I am incredibly keen on then just working in a very lean way for a while and getting a load of content out, because it's already becoming scary how much time I've spent setting things up, considering I don't necessarily have that long to make Wave to the happen. Okay, so point number one is that I logged into Facebook, bearing in mind that it's one of the places that I can talk about built from scratch. That's what I was doing. So I set up the Wave to the Facebook account whenever it was, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I logged into it to set up a built from scratch business page where I could list episodes of the podcast. And turned out that Facebook have shut the initial Wave to the account down. No idea why. It just had a message that I suspect gets sent all the time to people who have done stuff that justifies their account being shut down. Just a generic message saying something along the lines of, you've done something not in accordance with our terms and conditions, but it didn't say what it was, and it's difficult to imagine what it was, given that apart from setting the page up, I haven't touched it. I've done nothing with it at all. So that was frustrating. I then tried to set up Instagram and found that the confirmation code didn't work. Then when the second one did, I got a message saying there had been some suspicious activity on my account, which was like literally 10 seconds old, and I hadn't even accessed, let alone done anything with. So I then had to go through some security steps to reassure them that there was no suspicious activity on my account. I'm actually going to be mentioning Facebook and Instagram in a very similar vein in a minute, but that was annoying just at that point. So I carried on with the setting up of social media accounts, again for the dissemination of podcast related stuff. LinkedIn was another annoying one. What are we on? 8 minutes. Because I learned that they only allow business pages to be created if the account is over a week old, has 10 contacts made, and various other requirements are fulfilled. It's slightly annoying that they don't tell you these conditions up front, and even when you get to the end of the process and they do tell you that this is what you need, sorry, I phrased that terribly. Even when you get to the end of the process and it rejects your attempt to create the account, it does so just by throwing an error and saying nothing about what the actual problem is. In fact, I think it specifically said try again later, as if there was just something wrong at the LinkedIn server. I googled the message and found that I think it was buried away somewhere in the LinkedIn documentation, this list of requirements, which is fine. I get it. I understand that they're trying to build a network of people who actually interact, and therefore they've got those requirements in place. But it would have been very nice if they could have told me that's why they weren't allowing my my business page to set up. So I did think about whether I should put a bit of time into building that page up so I could use it, because obviously LinkedIn is going to be a relatively useful social network to spread the news of a set of videos and podcasts that are about someone trying to set up a business from scratch. But I decided the answer is no, just for now. Again, just because I'm so desperate to kind of wrap this up and get on with actually creating something, that I don't want to put that time into it at the moment. So what I have done is, it's the middle of August at the moment, and I have diarised for, I think, sometime around September, October, to reconsider putting some time into that, if the Built from Scratch project and Wave to the in general are, up and running and have something to show for themselves. The other possibility was, I do have a LinkedIn account, which meets all those requirements already. I don't use it often, but I use it often enough that it meets those conditions. But I just don't quite want to send this out on that account to these people that I've actually made contacts with, for various reasons in the real world so far. And I think it's just that in its present form, both this video and podcast and the website are, they've barely begun. They have nothing there's nothing to show really at the moment. And before I put that in front of people that I actually know, I want there to be at least something that's vaguely competent or interesting. Whereas, for any of you suckers who've come across this just by Googling something and accidentally come across it in its very early days, well, I don't know you, so it's not so embarrassing. But I do hope you are finding some kind of entertainment in this, and keep going. It'll get better. So LinkedIn's not happening. I realised in so doing that I probably want links in social media to... Okay. Oh, right, yeah. So this was actually quite a big deal. In setting these social media bits and pieces up, or at least trying to, I realised that I am going to need to have them all pointing at one site, preferably just one URL, the most suitable one. Which means that... Sorry, actually, this is more a precursor to the big decision. So I've said, which means that I might need to set the main site up soon. So what that's referring to is the fact that the small amount of work I've done on the website so far has been on the .co.uk wave to the domain. I haven't actually done anything on the wave to the .site domain, which is going to go hand in hand with that domain, or at least that was the plan at the time of writing this. I'll hold back the spoiler with regards to that for a second. So I'm just pointing out that I need to set up that site, which again is going to take a bit of time. Not loads, but a bit. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get on with that soon. Again, probably before I actually create any content. How annoying. But compared to these last 4 or 5 days that I've spent doing this, I'm hoping that might just be a few hours work. Anyway, you're right, we're definitely going to need another video. I'll just mention this bit. During the boredom of social media sign-ups, I briefly segued into researching India as an affiliate marketing opportunity, because there are a lot of people in India, and many of them speak English. My research told me that the standard language for Indian websites is English, so that was a positive start. But I then read that they only have 125 million English speakers, which, whilst quite a large number, is nothing like 1.2 billion or whatever the total size of the country is. So that kind of reduced my interest in further researching this to a degree. But, still, it's quite a lot of people. So I carried on looking at it. Recognise that obviously they're quite a poorer country in terms of sort of GDP per capita versus the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, most of the rest of the English-speaking world, which presumably means any affiliate revenues you might gain by working in the Indian market are going to be relatively low. So that was the end of that idea. as something to get excited about at least. I have nevertheless just written it up briefly and put it aside for something to think about in the future. Right, I think I'm going to stop this one here, and there's still a bit to go, but I think the next one will wrap it up. Let's see.